Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in. As it is the end of the month, I wanted to share with you what I'm going to be reading coming in February as I attempt to keep a New Year's resolution for once. So, up first, we have Where the Crawdad Sings by Delilah Owens. Now, this is a book that I had seen all over the place a couple years ago. It was on, Kindle. It was at Barnes and Noble. Everybody was recommending it. At least it sure felt that way. And I finally picked up a copy. So I don't know anything about this book. I've managed to keep myself from spoilers. Um, and I think that's always best when picking up a new book, is to go in blind. And as we can see, it is also now a major motion picture on Netflix. So when I finish this, maybe I'll go check that out. But let's read the back page here. For years, rumors of the Marsh Girl have haunted Barkley Cove, a quiet town on the North Carolina coast. So in late 1969, when handsome Chase Andrews is found dead, the locals immediately suspect Kaya Clark, the so-called Marsh Girl. But Kaya is not what they say. Sensitive and intelligent, she has survived for years alone in the marsh that she calls home, finding friends in the gulls and lessons in the sand. Then the time comes when she yearns to be touched and loved. When two young men from town become intrigued by her wild beauty, Kaya opens herself to a new life until the unthinkable happens. So, sounds like it's a murder mystery sort of thing going on there, but again, this was something that was recommended all over the place, and I figured, why not pick it up and give it a shot? So, I have already started reading it, and I'm on about page 16. Of course, the bookmark I'm using is an old Yu-Gi-Oh card, because I don't have any actual bookmarks currently. So, let's move on to number 2, and that is Paper Towns by John Green. Now, this was a book that I absolutely adored back in high school. I did a book report on it. I believe I was in 9th grade or 10th grade, and I got flying marks on that book report. It was one of my shining achievements at that age. So I bought this to see if it still holds up as I've gotten older. As you can see, I got it for $8, and I figured, given the condition that it's in, $1 is a steal. It's still very neat, and the binding is solid. It's a little bit dusty, but that's all right. So, who is the real Margot? Quentin Jacobson has spent a lifetime loving the magnificently adventurous Margot Roth Spiegelman from afar. So when she cracks open a window and climbs into his life, dressed like a ninja and summoning him for an ingenious campaign of revenge, he follows. After their all-nighter ends and a new day breaks, Q arrives at school to discover that Margot, always an enigma, has now become a mystery. But Q soon learns that there are clues, and they're for him. Urged down a disconnected path, the closer he gets, the less Q sees the girl he thought he knew. So, when I read this back in 9th or 10th grade, or, however long ago it was, I especially liked the ending of the book where the main character, Q, is talking about how he never actually saw Margot for who she was, and he comes to this realization that there's more to people than and what we see them as, and that kind of thing. And that has always struck me, that has always stuck with me since reading this, that important realization that sometimes you love someone for their idea and not for who they are. And yeah, I just really, really like that. And if I still had my book report, I'd probably remember more of it. But it's been over a decade now since I read this, so I hope that it still holds up. That would be fantastic. Um, so yeah, I am hopeful that this will still be just as good as I remember it. I know I also read The Fault in Our Stars when I was around that age, and I didn't like it nearly as much. So I suppose we'll have to wait and see. And then the third book that I picked up, I also got from a thrift store, and that is Daughter of Fortune by Isabel Aladdin, maybe is how you might say it. I'm not entirely sure. And I was at the thrift store because, that's where I get most of my books now. And I mentioned, I believe, in the last video, why I like the thrift store so much is because you go there, you don't know what's there, you don't even know what you're looking for, and you just browse and something will stick out to you. And for me, that was this book. And part of it was the age of the book. As you can see, the pages are quite yellow. I mean, maybe it doesn't show up as well on camera because, of course, I am burdened by my very orange light, but something about this just really stood out. I can't quite place why that is because I bought this a couple weeks ago now. But I remember just seeing it on the shelf and I said, ooh, that's something I would like to read. So now it's here. And of course, I will be reading this last. But it is something that I'm very excited to get to, and that's why I've put it at the back of my list. I want to save it for later. So let's find out what this book is about. An orphan raised in Valparaiso? Valparaiso? An orphan raised in Valparaiso, Chile, by a Victorian spinster and her rigid brother, young, vivacious Eliza Summers, follows her lover to California during the gold rush of 1849. She enters a rough and tumble world whose newly arrived inhabitants are driven mad by gold fever. A society of single men and prostitutes among whom Eliza moves, with the help of her good friend and savior, the Chinese doctor, Tao Chien. California opens the door to a new life of freedom and independence for the young Chilean. Her search for the elusive lover gradually turns into another kind of journey, and by the time she finally hears news of him, Eliza must decide who her true love really is. So that's exciting. I think this is going to be a very good book. I hope it's going to be a very good book. It sounds very dramatic, and I do love a good drama. Of course, I was in theater for many years, and I don't actually know when this book was published. It says here on the back that the cover design is from 1999, so maybe that's when this book is from. I'm sure there might be something in here somewhere that says. Of course, it has all the other books by this author, and I've never heard of this author before, so I think when I go to the thrift store to look for books, it provides an opportunity to find more authors that I wouldn't find otherwise. But that is book number 3, and I debated for a while if doing this new monthly recap if I would talk about some of the other books that I read previously. And I finally settled on, yeah, I should probably do that. So, The Creative Act by Rick Rubin is first, and I really did enjoy this book. I really liked a lot of the things um, that he had to say in this book, especially when it had to do with finding ways of staying creative. And I don't want to get too deep into um, exactly what is said because I don't want to be like a spoiler, but there are points in the book where I think he can be a bit esoteric, and I think some of the messages about sort of the universe speaking through you. Um, I didn't really resonate with some of that. This sort of divinity of being creative wasn't really my style. But I think there were a lot of very helpful tips on, you know, if one thing, especially for me, that I've struggled with a lot in my creative endeavors, especially writing, is I can't break sequence. Um, Even if I'm stuck on a part and I know other parts of a story that I want to do and write, I can't jump from the part I'm stuck on to another part that I want to work on, even though in this book it says that is something you should learn how to do because it doesn't matter, how you uh, do something. If you keep doing it, you may find better solutions, right? So it's talking about how give it a break, move to the other section, and as you're working on the other section, you may find a new way to connect the two and that kind of thing. So a lot of stuff in this book that will stick with me and hopefully help me, um, you know, going forward and making my own stories in the future. But some of the more, I don't want to say religious, but like the spirituality stuff, I think I feel sort of less uh, inclined to, I guess is a way to put it. But that is The Creative Act. And then number two, Life and Death in Shanghai. This was incredible. This is it really paints a picture of a part of history that I don't think um, I have really thought about before. Um, and it was really some of the things that were said in here were really hard to um, deal with. Um, but it was, I mean, I can't say enough about how much it sort of just sits with you, right? You'll read a chapter and the emotional storytelling is it really does just bite. It's just this. At times, it can be a very harrowing thing to read, I think is how I would say it. But at other times, it's also very hopeful. Um, so it's a new perspective for sure. Um, I've never been imprisoned, and I hope to never be imprisoned after reading this. But yeah, I would definitely say that this is one you should all go and read. And of course, the third book is The Green Mile by Stephen King. I don't have the book with me right now. I've loaned it to a friend of mine for them to read, so I can't show you the book as I talk about it, but it holds up just as well as the movie does. I would say it's better than the movie for sure, just because usually um, books are going to be better than the movie, especially with the bits and pieces about Jingles the mouse. There's a lot more about that mouse in the book than there is in the movie, and I think the movie sort of downplays the more supernatural aspect of the book, um, which I didn't ever realize when I first watched the the movie. But it is truly, truly, um, I think personally, at least, probably Stephen King's best. It's either that or Shawshank. Um, and I know there are going to be Stephen King fans that will probably have my head for that, but I do think it is a beautiful story. Um, Also very sad, of course. It is supposed to make you feel sad and connecting with um, what's his like Paul Edgecombe. I couldn't think of his last name for a second, but Paul Edgecombe, connecting with him and seeing his journey from being the warden at the prison and then slowly realizing that maybe this isn't what he wants to do anymore, and his relationship with John Coffey and the guilt, I guess. I don't know if it's necessarily guilt that he feels. I think it's something more complicated than that over uh, the death of John Coffey. But it really is just an absolutely beautiful story, and I'm so glad that I finally got around to reading the book instead of just knowing it as the movie. So that is my reading update for this month. I hope to see you all again next month in March, where maybe you'll have some recommendations for me in the comments to go and seek out. But until then, I hope to speak with you all again soon, and goodbye for now.